What made you realize someone you knew was actually completely fricked in the head? Not my story, but a friend's. His buddy was sitting around the fire, hanging out and chatting with everyone else. The guy finished his beer, turned to his wife and crushed the can on her forehead, which knocked her out like a light. My buddy said that guy says he loves his wife, but he did that to her. I'm not going to wait around to find out what he'd do to me. This is like my third time on this thread going what the actual frick. Went out hunting. While we were taking a break, he pointed his rifle at my head, paused, and pulled the trigger. It wasn't loaded. I left and never went anywhere with him again. When my friend showed me her money and plans to travel to the state of Washington, she was planning to steal Edward Cullen from Bella. Twilight was 100% real in her head. Last I heard, she had got into some hard drugs. When they told our friend group of 15 years they had brain cancer and would be dead in 3 months, went on going away vacation with everyone, cried a million tears, made funeral plans, had therapy sessions about it. They are still alive, never had cancer. Turns out they were just worried they were going to jail for embezzling money. SMH. Still not sure how that was going to play out well. This guy I met in college was a very nice guy. After knowing him for about 9 months, I went to his house in the summer for the first time. Before we went in, he told me about his sister's humongous butt, and would not quit rambling on about it. He even went on about how she was blessed with that butt. However, the defining moment was when he walked in and slapped her butt. She said stop in an embarrassed voice, and shoved him away, as if they were playing. I don't think she liked it at all. Needless to say, I began distancing myself from him more and more after that home visit. Crap, this reminds me of a dude I used to be friends with who told me and another friend of mine that he once had a massive crush on his older sister, and when she got married he hated, and probably still hates, her husband. Was like 15 and my dog just died. Absolutely devastated and was so upset all I wanted to do was go play basketball at the gym. On my way I stop at my best friend's house to tell him the news. He sees I'm upset and starts giggling and crap, and I was like WTF man, whatever. As I'm leaving, one of the last things he says is hey my name, where's your dog, and completely breaks down laughing. Hands on his knees crying. To this day I am still awed at the lack of empathy he extended toward me. When a colleague told me that she had very intense sex with her new boyfriend in front of her 7-year-old son watching all of it, she was proud of that and kept giving every detail possible even when we asked her not to. She had a new boyfriend every few weeks and it was always the same crap. I really hope someone called CPS for that poor kid's sake. Let them stay at my place and their dog pooped on the carpet. Woke up to them beating the dog with a metal bat at 1 AM. Edit. The dog is okay. He lived a long healthy life afterward. She was arrested and her kids were taken away. When she threatened to pour paint thinner on me in the shower because she was mad that I didn't know what she wanted to eat. I had a roommate who was a compulsive liar. I had drawn a picture of myself with a dry erase marker on our bathroom mirror and he had made a word bubble coming out of my mouth saying I love dong. When he pointed it out to me he acted like I had written it. I said it was obvious that he had written it, since it was in his handwriting, and since he wrote it, then he must be the one who loved dong. This is where a normal person would laugh it off and that would be the end of it. Instead he got super angry and stormed out of the house. I realized after that a lot of the things he said were lies and he would get furious when confronted with the truth. Our friendship pretty much ended right there. LOL, I had a friend who did crazy crap like that. He once got on my phone and sent a love letter from my email to himself, then tried to act like I was gay and in love with him. Weird fucking dude. When she thought it was hilarious that a male friend of hers was sexually assaulted by a woman while he was unconscious at a party, she was there to witness it. Nobody did a thing to stop it, and everyone there made fun of him after he woke up. My blood was boiling. The only reason this came up was because the guy in question was walking in front of us on campus, and my now ex-friend told me this story, giggling and smiling all the way. After trying and failing to make her understand how awful this incident was, she brushed me off, and our friendship was done. Good riddance. People like those should have no place in your life. Couple guys just freaking vanished from school. Everybody always thought they were a little off and just assumed they dropped out together. Turns out, one of them had a sister that both of them and the father were routinely having, according to her, consensual sex with. One day she said no and they up one big banjo jamming gang rape. They were gone because jail. WTF. Jesus. When my ex-wife texted my best friend's fiance from my phone, pretending to be me, saying I wasn't going to my friend's bachelor party or their wedding, and then deleting the texts, all without my knowledge, presumably expecting it all to blow over unnoticed, it didn't. I went with a close friend of 4 years to have a few drinks at a small, quiet bar, and she is one of those people who insists they know how to drink and can drive after having a few. I was naive and didn't want to start a conflict with her, plus I was tipsy and couldn't drive myself. No excuses though. I hopped in the passenger seat and my friend started driving her truck. After 20 minutes on the road, she randomly swerves into oncoming traffic, her truck hitting another truck head on. After impact at the scene, she kept loudly yelling about how much $sign this was going to cost her, and it's weird to me that the police didn't notice she was plastered. I told her I had a really bad pain in my chest and needed to get checked out by the paramedics. She gave me a look I've never seen her wear before, and said, "Not if you want to frick me over." I left it alone until her dad arrived and more pain had set in. I told them I wanted to walk over to the paramedics and get checked out. They both shook their heads and said no. I was so confused. Later, my mother took me to the ER to finally get checked out and this girl was angry with me that I went to see a doctor. She said she would pay for the doctor as long as I didn't report it to her car insurance company. She kept acting like I fricked her over by seeing a doctor. The months following were strange as she refused to give me any sort of insurance information to pay for my $8,000, a bill of which my health insurance company refused to pay for. BC I was in a car accident and they know that someone else is legally liable for my injuries. I eventually obtained her car insurance info only after my father called her father and he claimed to have no knowledge of this. I cut this close friend of 4 years off BC of how she handled that situation. My parents had to sit down with me to explain how badly I was being fricked over and manipulated by this person that I thought would have my back. All it takes is a specific situation for you to see what they would do. And going by their reactions, both her and her father had been through that before. I am so sorry. My disgusting ex-brother-in-law took a small BB gun and shot his son in the eye, on purpose, because he wanted to prove a point. His wife was laughing. Needless to say, husband called the cops. Both parents were arrested that day. I took pictures as proof, in case no one believed us. Last I heard, the kid is an adult and living with his foster family. The two felons ran off to Mexico this year. Not as extreme as some of the examples I've seen on here, but when he sincerely revealed himself to be a flat earther that used to be my boss at a satellite television provider that provides footage of NASA launching the TV satellites into space, somewhere this jackass thought man had never been. I worked with a meteorologist who was a flat earther. Yep, he also launched a failed rap career. I think my brother is a sociopath. He sees people, like our mother, as people to use for his own gain. While I saw him as an butthole, I never thought anything he did was that bad. But one day we were talking and he started bragging to me about how he tore his wife away from her friends, family, and religion. That is practically the definition of emotional abuse. For a long time I've suspected he has some form of social disorder. I've forgiven a lot of his actions based on this assumption, but after he bragged about abusing his wife, I decided I can't let him be in my life anymore. Good call. Also, try to warn his wife, if you safely can. Send her an anonymous message or something. Tell her to reach out to her family because having only one spouse as a safe harbor could be a sign said spouse may be isolating her, and that's abusive behavior. Poor woman. My partner's ex is a malignant narcissist with a long history of using their daughter as a pawn. trying to weaponize access, attempts to extort money etc etc. She hates me on the sole principle that I exist as part of my partner and his daughter's life. She's gotten progressively worse over the course of our relationship. She contacted my partner saying she was about to be intubated in the ICU and gave him her dying wishes. When he called the hospital, it turned out she was just there for some IV antibiotics. Crap hit the fan the weekend we moved in together. She had made several attempts to sabotage this by professing her undying love for my partner, then when that didn't work would turn around and start fights in front of their daughter about what an incompetent piece of crap deadbeat father he is. He's not, for the record. He single-handedly changed my mind on having kids by being such a tender doting father. Anyways, when their daughter went back to her place after we moved in, the ex claimed that I had been beating her daughter and locking her in a cage. She said the daughter was no longer allowed at our home unless I wasn't residing there, and that she would be reporting me to CPS. Weeks went by and nothing happened, so my partner called and had a case opened himself because he obviously wants his daughter in his life. We're still going through the courts to sort this nightmare out. The ex feels completely justified. She finally found a power play bad enough to actually cause damage in our lives. And the sad part is, their daughter is the one who's going to suffer the most. That woman is sent straight from heck, I swear to God. When someone I knew said they'd killed a bunch of stray cats around their neighborhood, same guy's son openly said they were becoming a cop to kill people. They are in fact a cop now. I knew a guy in high school who wanted to join the army so he could kill some M. This was back around 2005, right in the middle of the war. He did go. Served 8 years I believe. Now he's an alcoholic. Literally drinks a huge bottle of Jack a day and got an 18-year-old pregnant. I realized my grandmother was a nutcase when she thought it would be okay to tell me my dad isn't my biological father. She kept telling me I'm lucky to not have any Mexican blood. Her telling me this made me realize that she always treated me different than my younger sister and brothers because I was, as she put it, pure white. If I mention this to her, she claims she never did this and that I'm causing drama. My grandmother is a freaking C. Started making Facebook posts about how methamphetamine is perfectly healthy and only gets a bad rap from big pharma because money, and how using it is completely sustainable as long as you control the dosages. A few months later she disappeared from social media and I never heard from her again. Sounds like she wasn't very good at controlling the dosage. He was very adamant that a 50-year-old man having sex with a 12-year-old girl wasn't rape. He actually got mad that I kept using that word. It was such a baffling conversation. He said that if a girl starts her period, she's biologically ready to have children and should be able to have sex with men of any age. Classic old school out and proud pedo stance. Continuous gaslighting, and anytime my opinion differed from hers we needed to have a conversation on how I was victimizing her. Also how she kept trying to get me to break up with my longtime partner because she still had a crush on me. Oh, thought of a different, more juicy one. Old boss showed me her butt during work at a bakery, then tried to make plans with me to go find Bigfoot in the woods that weekend with a bunch of pastries after verbally abusing me for the past 3 weeks. When she lied for 9 months that she was pregnant and the day of her due date she flipped out and revealed that she was never pregnant. She didn't want her BF to leave her and she just kept on with the lie. And now she hates me. BC, I've removed myself from her life. I realized my sister is a psychopath when, among various other things, she sabotaged my business as my eldest child was falling mortally ill. For no other reason than we were drawing all the family's attention from her and her drama life. I cut all contact and still 10 years and a harrowing story of life and death miracles for my son later. She called the cops on me from another state to report me for abusing the same child I spent years in medical exile to save. Just because she hated what I said on FB about why I had to let go of the business. She was trying to have him removed from home while knowing nothing of our current life. After much digging through memories, I realized she has always been the type that loves to cause chaos and pain, then watch people suffer her off, but hides it all very well on the surface. She tried to mess up my boy's chances of survival, just because she could, then acted flippantly then aggressive when I called her out on it. Even more heckfire of her narcissistic rage. The insanity she has displayed in her hate for me is gobstopping. She is so fricked up in her head and without consciousness. She is legitimately dangerous. I would not be surprised to find out one day that she murdered someone and covered it up, just for crossing her. We're both still young, but I feel like mine's also going down this path. I still have hope she isn't as vile as yours appears. One of my old exes thought she was a real werewolf. She howled at the moon, rolled on the ground and freaking kept trying to bite at me in what she thought was a cute or playful way, but honestly it was just disturbing. I think she's okay now. She pulled a chair behind me to make fall to the ground, proceed to beat me up with it and called the cops on my grandmother for kidnapping by getting me away from her. Confronted my best friend's boyfriend for posting death threats for me and my other friends on Snapchat. Kicked him out of the house and my best friend left with him. Not much of a friend, WTF. I found out that he was a pedophile. He denies it still. I found out through a person who I actually didn't get along with well, but they said that they wanted me to be aware of who I was associating myself with. I researched and it was true. He was soliciting pee from young girls from all over through Facebook. He has been taken back for being too close to a school at least once. So he asked me if I wanted to dress up like a kid for him. I was about to get married in a month when he pulled this. I told him I was getting married. He said that he wouldn't tell anyone and I wasn't married, so I technically wasn't cheating. I stopped talking to him and told my now husband. Haven't heard or seen the guy since. A kid I knew used to manipulate kids into doing things in elementary and say it was funny. He then got suspended after trying to convince a vegan girl in our class to eat meat and even tried to shove it in her mouth. He also finally got expelled after almost convincing a kid to bring a knife to school and shank me. I then found out after. The kid told me someone was gonna kill me. I think what his problem was that his mom was a drug addict and the dad ran over his foot with a lawnmower and ripping off 2 of his toes, so he only had his big sister to look up to, and the big sister a bee and used to push kids off of swing sets and stuff. I recently got in contact with him and he's doing better. He went to therapy and good thing the mom got married then divorced and the kid got to stay with the stepdad because the mom refused to raise him. He's really nice now, has a good home and got stuff for his foot so he balances better and doesn't trip stick, kinda crazy but a lot nicer. Yay. I finally scrolled down far enough to unlock the good ending. Cool. I ended here. I had a friend who was a little odd, always had a story or something going on with him, but overall a nice enough guy. We were friends. He used to do some work on my car, house sat for me a couple of times, we talked and hung out. We were running an errand once and talking, and he ended up telling me about his deployment, how he'd married this girl who was the daughter of his CO, how he'd gone on this top secret mission and she died in a car crash with his kid during the time he'd lost it. Just a lot of details. Out of curiosity, I googled the CO when I got home, and yeah, so my friend told me he married James Mad Dog Mattis's daughter. Mattis has never been married and never had children. And yeah, it freaked me out how earnestly he told me that long involved lie and how easily it was proven to be untrue. I kept my distance afterward, never saw him alone again, never had him to my house. I was just deeply uncomfortable. I told one of our mutual friends who was much closer to him than I was and he basically shrugged off my concerns. Flash forward a couple of years, our friend ended up having an affair with someone, a second romance with another girl who immigrated to be with him. And he shot the second woman in the head and left her in the woods. He was arrested shortly after because he was dumb, and we found out he'd never even been in the military. He had flunked out of the Coast Guard. I'm glad that me and none of our mutual friends, other than the other woman, who was understandably a mess afterwards, were hurt by him. But goddamn, it still gives me chills how close I was to something deeply disturbed on a level that even I didn't know, and no one else did until it was too late. And my heart breaks for the girl. By all accounts she seemed sweet and was just coming here to meet someone she liked and start a new life. Your gut spoke though and you listened. So in a way you did know, even if it was eventual. He went off about exit signs needing to be on the ground because airplanes hit the ground too hard and pockets of gas are building up, and because of this Obama is a stupid mother sucker. He was also naked. The police came and had him committed. He lost his clothes so he could gain the knowledge that would save us all. Reminds me of the song Rosetta Stone in a way. When this chick I worked with started spouting stuff about reptilians, bloodlines, Avril Lavigne being dead and replaced with a clone, and Princess Diana and others eating babies to keep young and healthy, all in the space of a lunch break, when confronted with evidence to the contrary, she just said, "You all just haven't really opened your eyes yet. If you knew what I know." Send her a link of Inside Job on Netflix. You'll make her life. I knew this one girl in middle school who was crazy obsessed with me. Probably the first sign they were freaked up. I didn't like her and she was extremely clingy. She was one of those kids that says she is abused and hates her life, which according to her friends she was treated greatly at home but had a bad mental state. One week following the 7th grade dance she asked if I would go with her and she said if I said no she would kill herself. I said no. This made her go ballistic. She wasn't at school the next day and I was worried she wasn't lying. She comes in the next day with bandages around their wrists. Then she started leaving creepy notes in my locker saying things like, "As long as you reject me you are never safe," which was the one that made me tell the principal. Eventually the guidance counselor office got involved and tried to help her. She displayed depressed behavior for the rest of 7th grade. At that point I played it safe and never tried to interact with her. On the first day of 8th grade she jumped from the 2nd floor balcony in the main lobby and she struck a big wooden plant box with her head and died almost immediately. I feel bad now, something I did probably led to her death. That's some heavy crap. It wasn't your fault. Don't blame yourself. Father-in-law told me if I got the COVID vaccine I couldn't go to heaven because my soul would mutate. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.